All right. Welcome to Inside the Grind podcast, the podcast for people building real coffee shops. Every episode, we sit down with someone who's deep in the day to day, hiring, fixing, worrying, making hard choices, and still showing up to serve. These are honest stories from founders in the thick of it. No fluff, no ego, just the real grind and what's getting them through. If you're building something on your blog, this one's for you. Brought to you by Coffee Futures Fund. You also talked about failures, right? And how you have overcome failures, what failures have taught you. So tell me about failures. How do you see failures? What have you learned possibly from failures? What does it mean to you today?
Yeah, so much. I mean, I think there's a lot of cliches that wrap success into failure. And I think so often that type of comment is made because there's a lot of truth to it. There are people that find success that don't have to experience a lot of stumbles and fumbles but I don't think those are the majority necessarily. And I would argue that there's probably small instances of struggle or failure that were experienced through those processes. It's just not highlighted in the same capacity. I think, in the moment, struggle and failure and challenge it hurts. It's painful. But in hindsight, of course, the value of hindsight is that I can look back and see how the decisions I made changed and altered, and whether that's from a big picture perspective or even the things that I've personally pursued as a result of those failures, and how much richer the experiences I am having now because of those things, right? So I had, from a business perspective, and again, part of this to lean into your entrepreneur statement, I didn't spend very much time in coffee working for other people. I very quickly wanted to work for myself. And so I spent about 2 years working for another cafe business early on, and was like, I want to do my own thing. And so I took the very hard route of being an individual with no money, who also was unproven, wasn't going to convince anybody to give me money to start a business, and doing the whatever it takes to make that happen sort of thing. But also like having no experience, so not really knowing. I had two businesses before Madcap that there was you know there was no real, in hindsight, looking back, they had no real identity. The cafe and roastery I had before Madcap, is, I always kind of joke, it had very Central Perk vibes if you're, seen the show Friends. But, it was the neighborhood coffee shop, and did we do a decent business? Yeah, like it was busy, it was sustainable financially. The biggest reason that failed was more from decisions I made that this is not what I want to do. I'm not proud of this. I'm not excited about this. I don't want to grow this. And there was a point over around 3 years in where I'm just like, it didn't have an identity for me. And part of that was the more that I had been learning about coffee and the nuances and complexities of coffee that I didn't know before going into it, right? So as I pursued knowledge within having that business, the definition of what I wanted changed through that process. And so, that's sort of a unique definition to what failure looks like, in the sense of like, very few people are going to have a business for 20 years and always want the same thing. We as humans change, and that's what makes relationships so challenging, is the individuals in a relationship are changing constantly. The things that we interact with and the experiences that we have individually change us. So relationships require that you're always kind of coming back to and calibrating and asking the question about what is it that we're trying to achieve together and what makes it valuable. And so, so there's little failures and there's big failures, and how we respond to those things, I think, is the biggest thing that I've learned is in every instance, how am I responding to that failure, and how am I going to grow from it?
Yeah. And so I really want to double click on that to learn more. Like when you were in that moment, in hindsight, yes, you came over it and then you have grown to what you are today. But in that moment, when you were sort of in that failure phase, what were you thinking? Right? I mean, what was your modus operandi in terms of, okay, getting out of it? How do I find answers to these questions? What was your approach?
Yeah, I think, maybe if I was to say anything about my personality is unique, it definitely is a little bit on my approach to the, I mean, even, Madcap. So I started in the midst of the recession, right? So it was 2008 and we started in the midst of the recession in Michigan, so it was the worst, in the midst of the recession, the state with the worst economy at that point was Michigan. So I was starting a coffee company in kind of a dying downtown area. And everyone around me was kind of telling me, don't do this. Don't do this here. And my reaction to those statements was just, okay, now I really want to do this. So that's
Right.
one little insight there into how my mind sort of works. And so, you fast forward to even in an environment like the pandemic. And again, and I think this is, individuals, when you're put in leadership roles, whether you're a business owner, a manager of an operation or an entrepreneur, uh, your ability to react in those situations and find solutions, it's kind of one of the things I enjoy most, right? Like I studied computer information systems in school, and the thing that I like it was boring, which is partly why I didn't pursue a career in it, but I was good at it. And the thing I was good at was finding solutions. And really, I mean, part of my role as president of the organization is like finding solutions to things. And so, whether that's supporting my tech guy when he's having an issue with an espresso machine he's trying to fix, and he and I powwow about it, or whether it's dialing in a new coffee and a new brewing device, or whether it's trying to solve issues on we need to figure out our margins on a certain product. And so the problems I get to address are all over the map in terms of they're definitely not pigeonholed into one specific topic or department. But I definitely get a lot of satisfaction from getting to be a part of those challenges and help figure out solutions. And so part of that's just knowing myself, right? Knowing that like, hey, I function pretty well in those situations. And like when I think, if anything, if you were to interview some of my team members that I work closely with, I know that it's sometimes annoying that I don't get super stressed out in certain environments. And so sometimes my team gets a little worried, like, hey, this is a problem, right? Like we should be worried about this. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I understand. So I just am really good at compartmentalizing a lot of those stresses and challenges. And I think you get good at realizing, hey, I need to surround myself with people at the same time that understand, hey, this is a big deal. We should be worried about this, because sometimes I can be overly chill and like do need to have a sense of urgency about those things. So I think it's those environments where you learn the most about yourself. And then how do you respond in the sense of setting your business up for knowing that this is again this is an environment that you thrive in, but also knowing that there needs to be balance. And having that balance also means it's going to create conflict at times. Like those are people on my team where, because we're very different, there's conflict and we have to be able to work through those things. And if you didn't experience those challenges and those different types of failures and respond accordingly, assessing like, hey, how did I respond in that situation? What was missing? And being able to build a team and be open in the conversation around it. I mean, those are huge areas of growth that we are constantly having. But yeah, I would miss out if you didn't have those struggles. And we're better for it, I think, too, is the other thing. It's not like, well, you didn't have that struggle and we're surviving. But my argument would be that we're better for it coming out the other side,
Yeah.
um, as opposed to just maintaining, right?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Was there any inspiration or any person or a frame of reference, whatever that you took some inspiration from? That, hey, okay, this is the person I should go talk to, or this is who can help me, or okay, I've seen this person doing it this way, so maybe I can take some inspiration from there when I'm finding solutions to my struggles.
I think I've thought about this question a lot. I've had a lot of people ask me, and I think in hindsight, part of it was the time that I came up in the industry as well. I really didn't have any specific mentors or people that I could look to or bounce things off of specifically. But at the same time, there were businesses that I looked to initially that I said, hey, this is, the way that business is growing, and, um, the name that they've made for themselves in that capacity, that's something I really want to strive for. And I've also had a lot of maybe more so businesses who I've said, man, if I grow this way, I don't want to become that in my growth. So there's definitely examples that I've been able to use in looking at other organizations and different leaders, even that I don't know if it's helpful to name necessarily, but just seeing the decisions that others have made and where they've gone, and then being determined that I was or was not going to follow in that path. But then at the same time, I've been blessed. I think a lot of the work I did volunteering on the nonprofit side in the industry through different organizations, I've developed a lot of great relationships with people who are experiencing the same struggles, even if not quite exactly the same role, whether it was an owner, but in leadership positions in other companies, and having, peers that I was friends with who we shared the same values. And so being able to, talk about the direction the industry was going and the impact that we wanted to have in it, like having some of those relationships was super, super helpful and impactful. And I think if for no other reason than even if they weren't experiencing the same things, knowing that you had like-minded individuals who desired the same things, desired to see the same things from the industry as you did. And so we were just all finding our different paths to do that, right?
I see that. So you touched upon mentors. You did not have a lot of mentors, but of course, a lot of inspiration from what was out there in the world. Today, since we are talking on the Coffee Futures Fund platform, so I think we'd be remiss to not talk about the mentors and how you see that side of things as an operator owner. What does mentorship mean to you today? And how do you think that adds value to someone who's starting their coffee shop journey today?
Yeah, I think there's a part of me, you may be picked up on it. And of course, this is all hyperbole, but if I had had a mentor at different points, would I have been able to reach X without having to go through, some of the experiences that I went through, right? And so I'd like to think so. I can say, right now, the closest thing um, that I've to mentors at this point in my life that I've been able to grow from. I'm part of a CEO roundtable with 15 individuals who are all CEOs of different size organizations, different industries, it's I'm not. There's no one else in this roundtable that's in the coffee industry, and yet the issues that we're all dealing with, in like companies that are 10 times my size. But the issues are all so similar, and so the I've taken away so much value in just hearing from others the struggles that they're dealing with and how they've overcome them. And so the idea that, and so the value I'm taking from that now at this point, like, man, this would have been so fruitful when I was at year 3, and I still hadn't turned a profit yet and was like, do I keep going? And so I definitely would say, like, there were people in my life that made it easier for me to continue being self-motivated and like push through. But if I could have learned sooner about takeaways from a P&L that I eventually learned, or different marketing strategies, or things that essentially I end up learning on my own, I definitely could have saved some money in not taking so long to learn some lessons. But I think it's being exposed to those mentors in the right environment, and also me personally having to be of the mindset of understanding, like, this is the help I need, and a willingness to, and the humility to listen from individuals who can add a lot of value. So yeah, there's so much value to be had in mentors in all capacities. And so, yeah, it's, even using my CEO roundtable as an example, if I can use individuals from different industries, to gain as much value as I'm getting, like, how much more value can someone get from individuals that are 20 years down the road from where they want to be in the industry that they're in. It can be so rewarding. And I think those are even just the friendships that you build from those experiences, because when you share a struggle with someone, there's just no other bond, really.
That's so true. That's so true. Because, and this is also something that I was fortunate to see in front of my eyes when I run the Coffee Owners Roundtable, to bring these coffee shop owners together in a room to provide that sacred space to just meet peers. And what I realized was it's a lonely job, right? You're sitting at the top of the mountain and it's a lonely job. Of course, you have your team, your community, and all of it. But again, it's still a very lonely job, finding answers to your questions, putting out on a daily basis. So just the presence and the support of peers who know what you're going through at emotional level and having that space with those people adds a lot of strength in you and energy in you to go another day to solve another problem and then just take one step at a time. I wonder if you were speaking to an emerging coffee shop owner today. I know you do that a lot. People reach out to you for guidance. What would you tell them? Why should they join Coffee Futures Fund?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, there's no greater value than the diversity of mentorship being offered and just being able to hear for someone to come to the Coffee Futures Fund and be like, hey, these are the challenges that I'm having, be able to, one, have individuals be able to listen to you that also can relate to where you're at and be able to speak into that directly. I mean, you can't put a dollar amount in that sort of experience and feedback and having the ability to tap into something like that. Um, and I think it's again being so far down the road now that I can look at hindsight and there are so many areas where I see, man, that was even some of the simplest solutions. When you're in the weeds, you can't see them. You just can't see them. And so being able to have individuals who can look at the whole picture for you and be able to see through the weeds because you're in it so much, it can be such a relieving and encouraging feeling to have that kind of support.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And again, I appreciate it so much that you are willing to share your time, energy, and more so your knowledge that you have gained over so many years with the cohort that we are starting out in summer for the Coffee Futures Fund. That's it for this episode of Inside the Grind. If something here helped, make sure to subscribe and pass it to another coffee shop owner friend. We all need each other more than we admit. To learn more or join the community, head to coffeefutures.fund. This movement is just getting started. Until next time, keep growing. Your shop matters more than you know.